Well, our CBC cameras caught up with some of the protesters still on the streets of the capital today.
We're here to stand up with the truckers. We are, both me and my husband, we are doubly vaccinated, and we're here to support them and to support dropping all the mandates that the government has going on.
There's a lot of truck drivers here, and we're all trying to support the same thing, and that's called freedom. We want our freedom back. We want to be able to make our own choices in life.
The federal government is refusing to lift its vaccine mandate on cross-border truckers, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he won't meet with protesters. So what now? Omar Alghabra is the Minister of Transport. He's in Ottawa. Minister, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much, David.
I'd like to start, if I could, with the protest situation here in Ottawa. And the opposition Conservatives were saying today that the Prime Minister should meet with some of these protesters who oppose vaccine mandates to help diffuse this situation. Do you think Justin Trudeau should do that?
David, let me be very clear. Our government is committed to meeting with all voices. I have been meeting with credible voices in the Trucking Association, including today. I and my colleagues held a national summit on supply chain that included voices from the trucking industry. We support our truckers. We support them in every aspect of their work. We are grateful for their work. And we will continue to hear ideas and input on how we can help them do a better job for Canadians.
You said credible voices. Do you consider the people who have organized what's happening on the streets of Ottawa to be credible voices?
David, I'm sure there are many participants in the protests who are here in good faith with genuine grievances, but I don't think it's a secret that the organizers of this protest have had a troubling history of offensive statements. In fact, their manifesto calls for the overthrow of a democratically elected government. That's why I'm really surprised why the Conservatives are doubling down on hitching their wagon to them. Like, these voices have shown very, very troubling past and troubling rhetoric. And I think it's really important, while we support and work with people who have legitimate grievances, but also call out unacceptable views and offensive points of view.
So you've clearly read the Memorandum of Understanding or are familiar with it. They say they're going to stay there until their demands are met. So if you're not willing to meet with them and talk to them, how does this occupation of the streets around Parliament Hill get resolved?
First of all, I'm hoping the protest, if it continues, that it remains peaceful. Second, I call on all protesters to go home. They've made their point. There are other ways of lobbying government. Speak with your MP, speak with your MPP or MLA, and lobby others as well. Third, when it comes to how to deal with the protest itself, I have confidence in our law enforcement agencies. I just hope that things remain peaceful.
They've got access, or presumably will have access to, about $9 million that's in a GoFundMe account. I mean, so this could go on for quite some time, given access to those resources. Do you have any concerns of GoFundMe essentially financing a lockdown of the nation's capital?
I have concerns with an ongoing lockdown of our capital city. I have concerns for the small businesses who have been closed because of this protest. I have concerns for people who live in the downtown core that can't move around or go anywhere because of this lockdown. Look, this protest has made its point. Canadians saw for themselves what this protest is about. I just hope people now find a way to go home and, express their grievances and concerns in other ways.
The City of Ottawa is bearing an enormous financial cost to deal with this. You mentioned the lost businesses and the lost revenue that businesses are suffering, but the policing costs are more than $800,000 a day, according to the mayor. Is this something the federal government can help the city deal with?
Look, we will work with our partners, with the city, with law enforcement agencies, including the Ottawa Police Service, RCMP, the Parliamentary Protective Service, and we rely on them to do their job professionally, and they've been doing a fantastic job. But as a federal government, we will remain a partner to our law enforcement agency.
This protest started ostensibly in opposition to the vaccine mandates, cross-border vaccine mandate for truckers, but it's really evolved into a broader protest against public health measures in general. I just wonder, how worried are you by the anger and the frustration that you've seen on the streets of Ottawa over the last couple of days?
Look, many Canadians are frustrated and anxious about the pandemic and the ongoing restrictions that have come with the pandemic. we all want this to end. And our government is committed to doing everything we can to end the pandemic as quickly as possible. That's why every measure we do, and also the provinces do, are typically based on public health advice, and they are guided by science. And we want to do whatever we can to end this pandemic, to address these frustrations, and so we can restart our economy. So while Canadians are frustrated, but they also know that we need to do the right thing so we can end this pandemic quickly. So I don't dismiss that there are frustrations, and many of them are understandable, and I am sympathetic to them. But some of the voices, again, the organizers of this protest, are troubling, and we need to call them out for what they are promoting.
There is a new poll out today, though, Minister, from Angus Reid, that found that a majority of Canadians now support ending COVID restrictions and putting responsibility on people who get sick to take responsibility for isolating. Now, that poll doesn't drill down to whether that includes vaccine passports and masks or whether it's just talking about lockdowns. But is it possible that just there is a frustration and a fatigue with the public health measures and people have just run out of patience entirely?
I understand that, and I hear it all the time. People are frustrated. And look, our government needs to be and needs to continue to be sensitive to their sentiments. But we also know that in order for us to get rid of those measures, we need to end COVID. Canada today has the lowest infection rate per capita, at least one of the lowest in the world, one of the lowest death rate in the world, one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, and we've recovered all of the jobs we lost, and better than most economies in the world. That tells you that the measures that we've been doing have resulted with positive outcome, have reduced the impact that COVID could have on our society. So what that means is that if we continue to follow science and maintain our resolve, we can end it as quickly as possible. And I know Canadians support that. I know Canadians need leadership that is resolute to ending this pandemic as quickly as possible.
You held a summit today on the national supply chain and the challenges there. Were there concerns raised by the stakeholders you met with about the effect of this cross-border vaccine mandate that both Canada and the United States has imposed on truckers?
There were concerns about the supply chain challenges and the disruptions that COVID has caused to them, for sure. And we talked about all kinds of measures. But there was also an understanding that these vaccine mandates are important. People understood, even whether they felt the timing could have been different or offered different points of view. But there was an agreement that vaccines are critical to getting out of COVID-19 pandemic.
But are you seeing an impact, sir? Are truck flows at the border down? Is traffic decreased because of this? The sorts of issues that people have warned could affect the supply chain?
I can reassure you and your viewers that I've been monitoring the volume day by day, and that so far there have been no measurable impact on the volume of our trucks at the borders. In fact, the first week of the mandate, we had almost 100,000 truck cross the border, which was an equivalent and an average number for a week this time of the year. So we're monitoring the data on a daily basis. We're speaking with our partners at the U.S. border. We're speaking with truckers and trucking associations, who, by the way, were present at the summit today. So we'll constantly evaluate, but we're also focused on doing the right thing for Canadians and for our supply chains, and we're taking action.
You're also poised to take action on an expansion of vaccine mandates for federally regulated industries, including for truckers that cross provincial borders. So intra-provincial travel will be subject to a vaccine mandate. Given the opposition we're seeing to the national border mandate, are you going to go ahead with this, and when, or does this give you a pause?
David, we are committed to, as I said, to doing everything we can to end the pandemic. And this is what it boils down to. If you believe vaccines are one of our best tools to get out of the pandemic, then you really need to utilize vaccines. If you don't, then you can have opposition to the mandate. But there's consensus among scientists, among doctors, among industry that vaccines are a way out. In fact, you will see many private companies who have mandated vaccines without government mandate. Why? It's because they know the value of vaccines for their employees and for their business. So it boils down to this. Do you believe vaccines are our best way out of the pandemic or not? And that's a good question to ask the Conservative opposition. What do they believe? Because they really seem to want to have it both ways.
Right. Well, I'll ask them if they come on, but I got you here now. So one more question. I mean, you obviously believe in vaccines, so I take that as a yes. You are going to go ahead with this expansion of the vaccine mandate for cross-border trucker travel, provincial border travel. So how much notice will you give the sector before that's implemented?
So it's not a surprise for anybody that we are proceeding with it. This is something that we campaigned on last fall. This is something that Minister O'Regan, the Minister of Labour, has announced last December. We still have to work out the timing and a mechanism for it. But I think everybody now is aware that this is something that our government is pursuing.
Okay. Minister Alghabra, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, David.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.